This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by DigitalOcean and by Ting. Go to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device or your first month of service. Welcome to the Linux Action Show, episode 335. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Good morning to you,
Good
Matt.
morning.
Are you ready for me to tell folks about the big show today?
Heck yes.
Coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, it is our Ubuntu 14.10 review blowout. Woo! We have an all-star cast that has joined us, and we are going to cover the new release of Ubuntu 14.10 from every single interesting angle. We're going to look at the different flavors, what you can do to take this rather ordinary release and turn it up into something pretty exciting that will scratch an itch for just about any Linux enthusiast, or how to make it nice and solid. We'll talk about all of that, plus some more thoughts around this brand new review of Ubuntu 14.10 coming up in the second half of the show. But Matt,
yes,
you know, we do like to do news.
We do.
Every single week. So not only is Ohio Linux Fest coming up, so we're going to recap you on all of that right here at the top of the show. But in the news segment, we'll talk about Linus Torvalds and his comments regarding the environment that his language has created in the Linux community. We have a clip from a recent talk that he was just at. Right. Also, the big release from KDE. And producer Eric and I just went to a Kubuntu users meetup right after the new release of KDE Plasma 5.1. And we learned about some really cool new things that are in the new KDE release, so I'll share that with you. It was a great meetup, and some really cool progress has been made in the latest release of KDE. So we'll talk about that, plus some major changes in Docker, including a Docker mystery, a nice brand new game for Linux, AAA title.
I love it when we get new games. That just
And then, I hate ending the news on a sour note. Actually, we do have a little good news for Chrome users, but
that would be nice. You know,
we do
get a lot of negative stuff kind of balanced.
We have a sour note in the news that it's a bad trend for people who want to see open source and open standards continue to kind of be pushed forward by new businesses and new startups. There's a bad trend that's going on, and it's being pushed by VCs, and it could affect us Linux users. So we'll talk about that in the news segment. Plus, we've got a bunch of really great feedback this week, some additional follow-up stuff from last week's episode, some clarifications, and all of that. So huge show today. And so we'll start with our picks, because on top of all of that, we got our weekly picks, and today's Run Linux
got a question.
Is Formula One, and it came in from viewer Ronald. Now, Matt, you remember we talked about Formula One using Linux inside some of the cars.
Yes, and if you go back far enough, I remember some Linux being on the outside of a car.
So we have here, viewer Ronald sends in, he says, I don't know how popular F1 is in the U.S. Not super popular.
That's a key, right?
Yeah, no, it's actually an awesome race that it looks really awesome. Yeah. Anyways, he was watching the Japanese Grand Prix, and he noticed that the weatherman was using a Unity desktop displaying the forecast of the race. He's guessing it was 12:04. He says, love the show. Now, here's what's awesome about This Runs Linux. We had our global network of coverage of the Linux Action Show audience members, so some folks sent in the fact that they saw this. Right. Other folks actually submitted a video of it in action, so we've got it right here. If you watch closely, this might get us pulled off YouTube, but it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
so
low
if it does,
sound,
that's
quick
ridiculous.
shot.
Yeah. So here, I just want you to see it. The problem is the duration might be too long, but it's totes worth it. Screw YouTube if we get pulled off.
All right.
He is down with the FIA.
Okay, watch closely.
Andy Swan, great name. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Well, of course, since we got to Suzuka, all talk has been about the Typhoon, the now super
Ken,
Typhoon.
do you see our laptop
Andy,
there?
what can you tell us?
Well, the Typhoon itself.
Okay, now watch as they zoom in on the laptop here.
Okay.
There'll be no question
on
about
the left.
it.
Okay.
This is the Formula F1 whatever guy that does the weather. What matters is right there.
There's some
boom,
Unity.
totes Unity. I agree. I think it's 12:04 because you'll notice no Amazon search, but all the other default icons are in the dock, and it's the old Software Center icon. But look at that right there. So apparently the F1 folks using Linux at the diagnostic area for the cars when they're working on the cars. They're using Linux inside the cars.
Looks like 11.0. Yeah.
And now they're using it even for checking the weather.
That's cool. Nice.
These are my favorite runs Linux too, where you just see you just notice, hey, that's Unity, just sort of out in the wild.
Right. You just kind of catch that, and you're like, oh,
that's totally.
Yeah,
so
nice.
Thanks to everyone who sent this in, particularly Ronald, who sent in an email on the 5th about it, and then we got the end-to-end coverage with the video and pictures. We have if you're listening to the audio version, I have some stills in the show notes as well as the video.
Nice to be alerted to it and then kind of segue right into a video.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, all right, Matt, before we get into the rest of our picks this week, I want to thank DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com because they rock. They're a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. And if you use our promo code LASTOctober, that's one word, all lowercase, last October, you're going to get a $10 credit. And you can try out DigitalOcean for 2 months for absolutely free. Here's why. Because it's only $5 a month. You can get started in less than 55 seconds in pricing plans. Start at $5 a month and have a tiered approach that makes a lot of sense as you need more. And, for example, for $5, you'll start with 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, one blazing fast CPU, and a terabyte of transfer that is connected to Tier 1 bandwidth. DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, and London to get your geodiversity. And I think my favorite thing about DigitalOcean, besides the fact that they're running all on top of Linux, using KVM, invested in SSDs from the get-go, they have excellent customer service, they're growing like crazy in our community and the development community around. I mean, they've really gotten a great name for themselves, but I think what really brought it all together for me is their amazing intuitive dashboard. It's a simple control panel, which power users can even replicate on a larger scale with DigitalOcean's straightforward API. So you can integrate it in with like Unity dashboard widgets, or something like a shell script, or maybe your infrastructure management like Puppet or something like that. And they, of course, utilize Docker, and they can make deploying applications just as simple as clicking an easy-to-understand button in their dashboard. The simplicity and intuitiveness do not take away from the power. You can still do replication, snapshots, DNS management. You can deploy applications. You have an HTML5 console, so you get at boot console. I mean, it's really a complete system, but yet because it's so intuitive to use, you get that system spun up so fast that it's no longer a barrier to entry to get running. But DigitalOcean is going to take what they have and bring it up a notch. So remember, use our promo code last October. That's one word, last October, when you check out. You'll get a $10 credit. In fact, it's not even checking out. You just go to DigitalOcean, you log in, you apply that credit last October, you'll get a $10 credit. It's an awesome system. I love the way they do their billing. But there's something that's going to be even better about DigitalOcean soon. You might have noticed on their website they have a community section. DigitalOcean's already rocking and pulling ahead of everybody else in every category. And their community section's already one of the best with awesome, awesome tutorials. But they want to bring it up a notch, and they want your help. In fact, DigitalOcean is willing to pay up to $200 for tutorials that you could write. So if you've got something that you're an expert on, that you could write up a tutorial for using on DigitalOcean, their editors will work with you to help get it published. You can get paid $200. That's DigitalOcean's commitment to making sure they have the best tutorials out of any provider out there. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code last October, and if you're interested in writing a tutorial for them, we'll have a link in our show notes. Could be an easy way to make $200, and maybe you can go grab yourself a new phone or a tablet.
There you go.
Or just apply it to your DigitalOcean account, and I think you'd probably have DigitalOcean's
that would be
service
awesome,
for a long
because then
time.
you can just do droplets just to do droplets.
Yeah,
It'd be
just
awesome.
let it run. Just let it go.
Why not?
So a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Action Show last October when you check out. Okay, Matt, so we always feature a desktop pick, and it's always open source and free 99% of the time. I make an exception for a few of my favorite commercial applications, especially Crossover. Crossover version 14.0 shipped this weekend. Now, one of the reasons I love Crossovers is because they also contribute right back to the primary Wine project.
That's
so
nice.
all Wine users benefit from the work of Crossover Office. Crossover Office is something I've probably mentioned way too many times on air now, but it was really what allowed me to switch to Linux on the desktop, especially when I lived in a Microsoft shop where I needed Outlook and all of the Microsoft suite of tools, and I needed some of the Adobe tools. Crossover made it happen. Now, Crossover version 14 introduces a few cool features for Linux users, including the ability to automatically detect what missing components your underlying Linux system has, and then use your integrated package manager to go out and fetch those missing dependencies, so that way whatever Windows application you're trying to run works better. So I'll show you Crossover a little bit. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's probably not a heck of a lot that Crossover won't do for you that you might not be able to do with Wine on your own if you spent a lot of time, or something like Play on Linux.
But it sounds like it's saving you some time of using the Wine database and trying to figure all the dependencies out. Yeah.
They are really upfront and clear about what works well, what doesn't work. They have a very clear rating system, and they have this built-in database. So when you bring up Crossover, and you can try it for 30 days for free, when you bring it up, you get this install software button. When you install this, it brings you a up-to-date Windows software database that goes out and downloads from their service, kind of like PlayOn does a little bit.
A little bit.
These are the officially supported Crossover applications, i.e. you can talk to their technical support if this isn't working. You can get tech support, right? See, they have a silver, thumbs up, gold rating right there on that one. This one has a bronze one. Call of Duty is also silver. Different games, like here's Diablo 3. So here's what's really neat about it. And this works from everything from Enterprise Architect to Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Office 2010 to the Adobe CS products. I think it goes up to CS2 right now. and a few other things. But for example, say you wanted to install something like, I don't know, Internet Explorer or Diablo 3. You choose it from the menu in Crossover Office. By the way, there's also another whole ton of unofficially supported community applications, which is like hundreds of more apps here.
Holy cow.
Yeah, look at all these things you can install that are Windows. And what's great about it is whenever the installer is available online, the Crossover Office installer will go out and pull it down for you. So if I say I want to install Diablo 3, it creates a bottle, which is a self-contained, isolated wine environment that will mean I can do anything to this wine environment and will not impact any of my other wine apps. It goes out, creates that bottle, downloads the Diablo 3 installer for me automatically, and brings it up. And now I would just go through the regular installation process. When it's done, this will create all of the necessary icons for me, and I can then play the game. So I'll show you, for an example, I like to play Star Trek Online from time to time. I use Crossover Office here to download and install Star Trek Online for me. And it's not hard to do it under Wine. In fact, it's pretty straightforward. But the nicety is I really want this to be bulletproof. This bottle system that Crossover uses, which again is not impossible to set up on your own, but it's all done for you automatically. It goes out and downloads the installer, so I don't even have to visit the Star Trek Online website.
I think it makes it more duplicatable because while we're able to do a lot of the stuff on our sleep, asking someone, trying to do tech support over the phone with someone that's never done this, it's a lot easier to say, hey guys, look, honestly,
there's that too. There's things like you can manage bottles, you can kill it gives you an interface to kill Windows processes, which is much more approachable for a lot of users.
And there's an advantage even for pros to not having to go and try and figure out what those dependencies are. Sometimes it needs like a DX this or whatever it is, and not having to know which version or let this figure it out for you.
So here is, if this isn't enough blasphemy for you, here is, how about this for some retro action? This right here would be Internet Explorer, and let's see, I don't even remember where you get about.
Think about.
Where do you get about Internet Explorer? Does it even?
Off help, I believe, but.
I don't even know. Oh yeah, here we go. About Internet Explorer. So here's IE7 on the MATE desktop. How retro are we feeling right now?
That is so wild. That's funny.
I mean, and so Crossover it's a nice to have, especially if you are in an environment that requires some serious Microsoft integration. There's obviously lots of tools now to integrate with Exchange. But sometimes there's nothing better than actual Outlook. So that's where Crossover saved me. And now it just lets me, from time to time when there's a Windows game or something like that I want to play, and I don't have a lot of time, it's my click, go through it. I buy it once a year. So it's a once-a-year purchase for me. I think it's like $50, $40.
It's pretty reasonable, yeah.
They always have a sale every year, and I always buy it when they're having a sale. So I think I picked it up for like $25. And then you just get an annual upgrade renewal. So any upgrades that come out during that time, you get for free. And again, it's just a nice way to also support the Wine Project.
I think so. Well, and I like the fact that, as you pointed out, exactly, is that some of that money is actually going toward the Wine Project, or not the money, rather, but the code and the contributions and whatnot.
Keller CW78, who I hope is feeling better, he was just in the hospital for a little while, says that he uses Crossover to play a lot of the Sierra games from GOG, Good Old Games.
Oh, yes.
He says Big C also mentions that they directly support wine developers, like they pay for some of the wine developers.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of love in the, good, I'm glad. I wasn't sure how the IRC would feel, but it looks like a lot of love in the chat room.
I mean, I've used wine in a number of cases, and I use different things for different stuff. Big fan of individual bottles. Yeah. That, in any capacity, is your buddy.
And congrats to Crossover for version 14. I think I've been buying every release for just about 12 releases now. So
Definitely.
And also, they have a Mac OS version, which probably does stuff on the Mac, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess I can't even fathom running.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't really fathom running OS 10, really.
Yeah, I barely want to run Windows apps on Linux, but I guess maybe some people try to game on Macs. I don't know.
You can do that,
Just teasing, guys. I'm just teasing. All right, well, so next week, the big show is going to be all kinds of different. Not only are we not going to be live on Sundays, which almost never happens, but we're going to be at Ohio Linux Fest 2014. So I want to tell you what's going on, because it's going to mean different air times, different information. So I want to kind of get all this concise, get this together for you guys. So next Sunday, the big show will not be live in its regular time. I have all of the times, generally broken out, but we're going to be live Monday afternoon. That works for you, right, Matt? Monday afternoon?
Monday afternoon?
Yes.
Yes, that should be fine.
3 p.m. Pacific, which is 10 p.m. UTC, 6 p.m. East Coast, and that's 10 p.m. in UTC. So you can do the math from yourself, but we'll try to get that on the jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. So here's the deets you need to know. We're going to be at Ohio Linux Fest. We're going to be armed with stickers. So if you want to come say hi and get a sticker, we'll also have special stickers for folks who have JB swag. So you'll get not only a limited edition Ohio Linux Fest. Look at how awesome that sticker is.
So great.
But you'll also get another limited edition vinyl LAS or JB sticker, depending on what we have. And you'll also want selfies with you if you're at Ohio Linux Fest and you want a sticker. So prepare to take selfies with my wife. And be sure to say hi at the after party. Ange and I are going to try to make it there with the crew so you can come hang out with us and have a few drinks or not. If you are going to be at Ohio Linux Fest and you're a presenter or you have a booth and you'd like to be interviewed by us, email production@jupiterbroadcasting.com and one of our crew will try to set something up with you. And don't forget, if you have a Linux Action Show hooded jacket, email Angela@jupiterbroadcasting.com. Follow Jupiter Broadcasting on Instagram, instagram.com/JupiterBroadcasting for live pictures from Ohio Linux Fest. Also follow me on Twitter. I'm twitter.com/ChrisLAS. We'll be updating our location and what our plans are. You can also follow Angela, just in case I forget to tweet. She's twitter.com/ANGERZ, Angers with a Z. I have all of this listed in the show notes. So if you're going to be at Ohio Linux Fest, come say hi to us. We're going to be walking around. We've intentionally decided not to have a booth this year because we want people to say hi to us and not be afraid of the booth. So we'll be up, walking around, chatting, doing interviews. If you see us talking to somebody and you want to say hi, just wait till the interview's done and come say hi to us. All of that's cool. You can also try to find us. You can tweet me. I'll try to be checking Twitter. I don't know what the cellular data situation will be there, but because sometimes those events get crazy.
Never know.
So all of that, again, is in the show notes. So, and just a one more reminder, the Linux Action Show will not be live on Sunday because I'll be traveling. It'll be live on Monday. So Monday is going to be Coder Radio and the Linux Action Show on the 27th. So you can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. And so Ohio Linux Fest, we'll have clips, we'll have highlights in that episode. We'll probably have some up for Linux Unplugged too. We're going to be getting lots of interviews, talking to a lot of people. So the next week's episode of Linux Action Show should be a big one. And we hope to see you at Ohio Linux Fest running from the 24th to the 26th. Can say hi to Ange, and some of the producers from the show.
Yeesh.
So that'll be it.
Good stuff.
Very excited. I'm really looking forward to it. Next time we see the big show, I'll have traveled to Ohio for the first time and hopefully made it back. It'll be a
never know.
And if I'm not, it'll be Matt and Eric that have been left behind, and they'll be doing next Monday's Linux Action Show.
Yeah, Beavis and Butthead hosting this, And I've got dibs on Beavis, I'm just saying.
I think that'd be a good show. I think that'd be a good show. All right, Matt, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com, Matt. Last.ting.com. Everybody go to last.ting.com, and you'll save $25 off your first device. If you have a Ting-compatible device, then you'll get a $25 credit on your Ting service. I've been using Ting. I'm not yet at my 2-year mark. I think I will be in December, though.
Wow.
I know, man. And it has been awesome, which means I'm getting really close to that ultimate savings. We tell you a lot. If you go to last.ting.com, you can try out their savings calculator. I think I'm going to save in my 2-year total. I think I'll be somewhere near $2,000.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's more money for the studio, more money for other things, right?
Yeah, put it back in my business, or just, since it's going to be in December, maybe it's just an excuse to get everybody better Christmas presents.
There you go. Yeah.
One of the things that's great about Ting, too, is the service just keeps getting better. Not only do you pay for what you use, so it's a flat $6 for your Ting line. And then it's just your usage on top of that, which is a great system. There's no contract, so therefore there's no early termination fee. But the Ting dashboard's better than any carrier's dashboard out there, and they just gave it another refresh.
No kidding.
Yeah, you can check it out on the Ting blog or just go log in if you haven't checked out the new Ting control panel. It looks better than ever. It breaks out multiple lines if you have multiple phones, and why wouldn't you? Since you can have unlimited lines, it's just a flat $6 for that line. Plus, the Ting plans include the hotspot, the tethering. It's just data usage. If you want to use Ting as a mobile ISP, have at it, Hoss. Ting don't care. Ting honey badger about that. They love it. That's why they have MiFi hotspots that are tri-band LTE. You can get them. It's $6 a month for that. And we often talk about Ting's like app picks, but there's another side to Ting. There's the big data, quote unquote. Everybody loves a buzzword. Well, actually, sometimes big data actually is a real thing that makes sense. And Ting has a video that talks about it a little bit.
My name is Beth, and I'm the information specialist here at Ting. So I've been here at Ting for 1 month now. I heard about the job because my friend Jesse actually works here as well, and he thought the position might suit my skill set. As an information specialist, I dig through a lot of data to answer business questions, to drive Ting forward in a way that we want it to go. Basically, everything I do and everything I look at is goes towards improving customer experience, which obviously is very unique to Ting and very unique to mobile providers. I like so many things about working at Ting. My team is awesome. Everyone was really welcoming when I started, and they're always willing to help me if I have questions. I think Ting has done an amazing job with their pricing model. I love the fact that you pay for what you use. That just makes sense. And I think that's brilliant. And I hope that Ting comes to Canada very soon.
Yeah, it's funny. They're based out of Canada, but they don't get to use Canada. They don't get to use it up there. We're lucky down here, and maybe one day they will. So go to last.ting.com to get started. Try out that savings calculator and plug in your actual usage. Savings calculator kind of opened up my eyes and really showed me that I can save a ton of money, because what I was doing before was paying for what I might need, and sometimes I didn't need that. And the months when I needed more than that, I always felt really screwed. I've never felt that way since I moved to Ting. It really is mobile.
You're not throwing away those minutes anymore. You know?
Yeah, and I feel like I really feel like I'm probably in a much more appropriate relationship with my mobile carrier, where I'm only paying for what I need to use, and I can buy an unlocked device. I can put that on the Ting network. In my case, the Nexus 5, but there's lots of great devices. I put it over there. I pay for what I want, and I have no contract. It's pretty awesome.
It's good stuff.
Last.ting.com. Try out that savings calculator, and a really big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Nice.
And they've also, by the way, got a blog post up about the Nexus 6. So if you're looking at the Nexus 6, you guys can go check that out. I think you'll be seeing that on Ting pretty soon. Huge phone. Monster phone.
Big.
All right, Matt, our first story this week is from Mr. Torvalds himself. Sometimes when the man speaks, it makes news, and that was the case this week. Everybody's been waiting for a response from Lennart Pottering's post about the hostility in the Linux community, because he attributed a lot of that hostility is inspired by Linus, because of the way Linus communicates, yells at people and swears and things like that. He had a pretty good fireside chat, as you might call it. And in this interview, he said, one of the reasons we have this culture of strong language is that admittedly many people find it off-putting. He says he agrees that's a problem. But when it comes to technical people with strong opinions and strong drive to do something technically superior, you end up having these opinions show up sometimes as pretty strong language. And I think I've got another clip here that kind of where he says some of this.
Okay.
I say that jokingly, right?
Hi, James.
No, the real issue is I actually think it is important to be on the internet. Nobody can hear you being subtle. And it's really easy to get your wires crossed and not really understand what the person on the other end feels. And especially if you're being gentle about this and saying, yeah, your patch, I don't like it. Could you maybe change it a bit? The other end is kind of encouraged to go along and continue doing the same thing, when sometimes you really need to say, no, really, that is horrible. You cannot do this. Go away and come back with a completely different approach. So I do think that one of the reasons we have this culture of strong language that admittedly a lot of people find off-putting is that when it comes to technical people who have strong opinions and have a really strong drive to do something that really is technically superior, you end up having these strong opinions show up as sometimes pretty strong language.
So that was his comments on it, and it's pretty hard to disagree with that. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I can definitely see where he's coming from. I mean, you know, if I'm on the receiving end of that, yeah, okay, that'd be hard.
Yeah, that's
true.
But
at the same time,
right, that would be a different story.
Maybe this will help clarify that it's not personal. He's not calling you an a-hole. He's calling,
the results,
this, that, and the other thing. So, hopefully that will maybe clear the air a little bit for folks.
There's also, I'll have it linked in the show notes, a Linux kernel developers panel where this topic came up a few times. So if this is something that you find interesting and you want to hear the kernel developers, these are the people who sometimes Linus has to yell at, right?
Exactly.
So
you
get to hear their side of it, and you could probably guess how they feel about it, which is sometimes it's just necessary. But there is a pretty good discussion. It's about a 43-minute video, which I'll have linked in the show notes, that the Linux Foundation has put up from LinuxCon and Cloud Open Europe 2014 that just wrapped up.
Nice.
Speaking of just wrapped up, KDE Plasma 5.1, KDE's Plasma 5.1 hits the web. This is the Plasma you have been waiting for, my friends. Now, a big disclaimer up front, and we're going to talk more about this in the Ubuntu 14.10 review, but those of you where your favorite feature of KDE 4 is how stable it is, maybe don't upgrade, because there is still some bugs and some crashes, which we'll get into more later in the show. But the exciting thing is about 5.1 is this is the release that really begins to show some of the work that the visual design group has truly been working on. For 5.0, and I had a chance to talk to one of the visual design guys at the Kubuntu users meetup, 5.0, they kind of had to push in as many little things as they could just to have something. But in 5.1, they've worked with some of the different projects like Network Manager and Clipper, and they've got more icons in, and the Breeze theme has seen a massive update and a refinement. Yeah. So a lot more of the visual design group's work has gone into Plasma 5.1. Obviously, a lot of bug fixes in Plasma 5.1 as well, so it's not just art. I don't mean to just sort of overemphasize that, but that's an area I'm probably the most excited about, and I think it's an area that a lot of KDE users are looking forward to improvements.
Well, it looks like an interesting mix of elements. Definitely some very strong modern Windows elements in there for sure. But at the same time, it's got some of its own as well, and I've noticed that it's got some
and they've brought back some of the more popular features that were sort of taken out from version 4.0. New widgets, the icon-only task manager, and notes widgets and system load viewer are back now. That's kind of one of the problems with KDE Plasma 5.1 is that there's some of your classic widgets that you love have not been moved over yet. So some of the most beloved ones are over. You got to check out that new clipboard widget with the redesigned user interface, which sits on top of a new clipboard manager, which is super clean. Kicker's seen a bunch of large improvements too, as better accessibility and integration with the package manager. So you might want to check that out. And two Google Summer of Code projects made their way in. Plasma Media Center and the tablet-centric Plasma Active User Experiences have basic ports available now. They're not yet release quality, but they're Summer of Code projects that have been worked on. A lot of Wayland progress in this edition as well. We'll tell you how you can get your hands on KDE Plasma 5.1 later in the show. Great release, though. Really excited for the visual design group to see some of their hard work make
Looks
it in
good.
there, too.
Looks real good.
Favorite project on the show that we've tracked since its very, very inception. It was a big thing on this show before it was a big thing anywhere else. Docker 1.3 releases a bunch of new features, including a new mystery deal. But first, I'll tell you about the features. So you guys know Docker by now on this show, the container software for Linux that's made kind of a big splash. Among the big additions in version 1.3 is the ability now to check images with a digital signature. So you can verify that this image is legit. Signed images, which is huge. You think about it.
That is very big.
That's a major feature to have, and when you tie that in with the Docker Hub, that's pretty important. There's also new security labeling options that can work with SE Linux and AppArmor. Beyond security, there's a new interesting command that could be a really nice command that I wish Docker's had for a long time, and that's the ability to use to send in to execute like a process command into one of your containers. It's called Docker exec, and you could use it to start a process. Just, hey, Docker, go start this process in one of my containers. That way you don't have to get into the container and start it yourself.
How much faster that would be, right?
Yeah, for scripting and things like that and starting things up and down. I'm really looking forward to that. And there's been another kind of interesting development with Docker. And this one I'm more perplexed by, and I don't know if it's really related to the release timing or what, but so here I have up on the screen right now a diagram of the way Docker works. And you see you have the Docker management layer, which is a bunch of scripts. It connects to Docker Hub. It takes care of a lot of the user management stuff. And you see then Docker communicates with libvirt and LXC and systemd and all these things. It uses a bunch of Linux kernel features like cgroups and namespaces and netfilter, netlink, and can take advantage of things like SE Linux and AppArmor. This is your basic Docker diagram right here, okay?
Okay.
What I do not understand, but yet has happened anyways, is Microsoft has announced plans to integrate Docker support into the next release of Windows Server, which will come out next year. Here is this new diagram provided. This is so clearly a Microsoft diagram, too. I just love it. So what they're saying is that Docker on Windows Server will utilize the Docker engine. Here's the direct verbiage from Mary Jo Foley's ZDNet article. Under the terms of the agreement announced today, the Docker engine open source runtime for building, running, and orchestrating containers will work with the next version of Windows Server. The Docker engine for Windows Server will be developed as a Docker open source project. with Microsoft participating as an active community member. Docker Engine images for Windows Server will be available in Docker Hub. The Docker Hub will also integrate directly into Azure, so it is accessible through the Azure Management Portal and Azure Gallery. Microsoft is also contributing to the Docker Open Orchestration Application Programming Interfaces, or APIs. So a couple of key things jump out at me.
Wow.
The Docker Engine for Windows Server is going to be its own open source project. Docker images for Windows Server will be their own specific flavor of images in the Docker Hub, and there will be direct integration with Azure, and Microsoft will also be contributing to the Docker API. This is a lot for my brain to unpack here.
It feels like you're kind of untarring something, right? I mean,
Docker is a Linux technology, but now what we're doing is we're taking Docker, we're moving it to Mac OS X, and we're moving it to Windows. And it's starting to feel a lot more like the branding than it is about the actual fundamental technology.
Oh, it is definitely about the branding. I think they're also they also see what it can do, and I think it's got them nervous. I think Microsoft's thinking, we better do something with this branding and with some of this technology.
And I think too, like Windows is like, crap, we missed the container boat.
Yes.
And now that we missed the container boat, we got to get behind the brand that people trust.
But that's what they always do. I mean, if they can't buy it, they rebrand it.
It's a pretty interesting move, and we'll see if it actually works. I don't know. I just don't know why people would want this. I would rather just have a Linux. It seems like you're going to have less containers available for Windows. It's just always going to be a second-rate thing, but we'll see.
Well, there are, and I'm sure you know of them too. I can think of one Microsoft shop specifically that does events, for example, and they are just Microsoft, and I could see them adopting this for their needs.
Yeah.
Yes, not because it makes sense to me, but because it might make sense to them.
Sure.
I still think that Microsoft was late to the game, but if it works for them, great. Whatever.
Yeah, and we'll see what actually materializes. It's a big move for Docker, though. I mean, it's
huge.
Docker's, it's just blowing up. It's crazy. Okay, Matt. So I want to talk about a big game release for Linux. So we talked about this enterprise stuff. Let's talk a little bit about gaming. Borderlands, the pre-sequel, has arrived for Linux the same day as the version for Windows and Mac OS. Aspire worked hand in hand with the team to make sure it came out. I think that's pretty awesome. Gearbox and 2K Games were pretty willing, it seems, to work with Aspire to make this happen. So the Tux faithful can grab Borderlands, the pre-sequel. This is almost a $60 game on Steam. Wow. So this is for a serious gamer. But you get access to all the same features, all the downloadable content add-ons, all the multiplayer functionality. It's all true. You get the same functionality. It uses the Unreal 3 engine underneath it. I'll play a little clip of it just so those you can see it. I've already downloaded and installed it myself. I have a lot to say about it, but I'll save it for another time. So it's got that same animation style.
It's got the robot, which
it's super fun, man. And the robot's a playable character. Now, I don't want to spoil too much of it.
Really? Oh, that's an important thing to know, though.
I started playing it on the live stream. People were like, no spoilers, no spoilers.
Right.
This is probably one of the best games available for Linux. I already, the amount that I played, I was already super drawn into the game. I like the story. I love the first-person shooter meets RPG, storyline, quests, accomplishments, building out my gear. And another cool thing to note is that it detected my previous Borderlands install, Borderlands 2, that we've talked about recently on the show. It detected that install and moved over my character and some of my progress information from that game into this game. Now this game continues my character's storyline, and I didn't have to do it. It's just like, hey, I detected your old install. Let me move your character over for you.
Dude.
Pretty neat.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, not the first time I've ever heard of that, but I think it's the first time it's ever happened
and it's
to me
just,
under Linux.
I think for Linux especially, this is probably the best looking game I've ever really laid honest on. I have an affinity for that comic art, type stuff.
Yeah, the cell shading. Humi says he's already sunk 14 hours into the game. It's really exciting to see a true, genuine AAA title launch same day on Linux like this, and just really be a great port to begin with. Man. So you can check it out. We'll have a link in the show notes. It is $60, so you might want to wait till it's on sale, but if you're a serious gamer, I think it's worth picking up. I also I wanted to grab it just to see what my rigs could handle.
Oh yeah,
max out those things. It's fun to do that
just
too.
Kind of go for it.
All right, I want to talk about a bad trend, and it's nothing we can really do about it, but maybe it's something people can think about. Dave Weiner has a short but important post discussing how a new round of entrepreneurs and then the VCs that are backing them are really focused on locking users in rather than making use of open standards. So their basic thought process is they worry that providing access to the data that their systems accumulate, no one will have to come to their website, and therefore no one will be able to enjoy lock-in. So what they need to do is if they're going to invest millions of dollars into these companies, they want to make sure that they essentially have a quote-unquote sustainable competitive advantage via lock-in and things like that.
Right.
So they say going for proprietary solutions that locks users in is a short-term strategy because a lot of companies are afraid to innovate. It sort of fundamentally betrays a fear to innovate because really what you have to do is you have to continuously move forward and innovate. You actually have to continue to innovate in the long term, and don't worry about locking people in because they'll want to stay if you continue to innovate. By keeping things open, you enable a wider ecosystem to grow up around things, providing even more value. Openness breeds innovation and creativity. But the companies that are fearful of that are the ones that think they can't compete. Exactly. So they need to create barriers and hurdles and toll booths to keep people from leaving. It's really kind of a short-term thinking, but a lot of VCs have short-term thinking. So they're having these companies create these platforms and these apps and services to make these sustainable competitive advantages, and it leaves users of open source and free operating systems kind of left out.
And by VCs, you're talking about venture capitalists?
Yeah.
So
because they're like, I'm not going to give you $5-10 million unless you can guarantee that this thing's going to generate revenue for 5-10 years here or whatever it needs to be. Exactly. If you open this thing up, somebody might just take it and run away with it.
And I know a couple people that have dealt one-on-one with VCs, and generally two commonalities usually strike. Either they're visionaries or they're how can I double my money as quickly as possible type folks. Yeah. And sometimes you have an intermixture of the two. They don't care about openness as a general rule. They care about market adoption, dollar signs, things like that.
For sure. Yeah. And here's to me what it sounds like, Matt, is it sounds like the old RSS argument all over again. I can't put my website feed I can't put my whole content in the RSS feed because then why will people visit my site? I can't do that. And it's again and again, it has been proven over and over again that what you need is a community that can build off of it if you're trying to build a platform. And I will refer to Twitter as an example. So just look at some of the basic things on Twitter, right? Twitter didn't invent the hashtag.
No.
Users started using the hashtag. Twitter didn't come up with retweeting. Users came up with retweeting. Users utilized the API. They built apps around Twitter to do filtering and searching capabilities. And Twitter was able to focus on their core things, like trying to make sure they didn't crash every 10 seconds, while the community sort of built this entire usefulness out of the Twitter infrastructure. Twitter today is so much more useful and valuable because of the things that their community provided for them. And I will give you a counterexample. Look at Google+. All of us Linux geeks love Google+. Google+ is so great. Let's send Google all our signals, blah, blah, blah. I'm a hipster. But in reality, Google+ is going nowhere. And what does Google+ lack? An open, writable API. You can't plug Google+ into other services. You don't see apps around Google+ for mobile. You have to use good old read-only Google+ API or the Google+ app. And as a result, the platform has suffered. So when these VCs are doing this, it is certainly short-term. And it's really kind of unfortunate because it's going to lead to the open source community finding these things, looking at something that's locked down and saying, well, let's innovate our own replacement for that. And open source will just eventually replace you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One thing I would point out, though, is other attempts at, say, open source social media platforms fall hard. And not because that they're bad or they're not useful, but because of the fact that they usually lack money and they're not able to really differentiate themselves in such a way to where they're going to gain users to say, okay, this is like with MySpace and Facebook. There was a reason why people were bailing off in droves. We haven't achieved that yet. So I think while it's true, I think that open source social media stuff really is going to have to address that because there's still that mentality.
It's definitely lacking.
I put it out there and people are just going to come to it. No, they're not.
Yeah, there's not a lot of true quote-unquote open source solutions out there, and I think that's what drives me crazy. It's like the web backends are all closed up, and the best we get as end users are these open APIs that maybe we can use, and now those are getting closed up, and I just...
Yeah, and so you can have the best API in the whole universe, and no one's using your product anyway, the end user. Yeah. So you got to find that way to kind of catalyst both at the same time. That would be ideal.
Let's end on a little good news, Matt. After a whole bunch of feedback, the Chrome OS developers decided not to drop extended 2 and 3 file system support and 4 from their file manager. They're reversing their decision. They plan to re-enable 2, 3, and 4 support in files.app immediately. It'll come back there just like it was before, and they're going to work on getting it in a stable channel. So there you go. Little good news.
Very cool.
Thank you, Google, for responding to users' needs.
Good stuff.
Us Linux users who fancy getting a Chromebook from time to time or have a C720 Chromebook but use Linux on it are a little more likely to use Chrome OS if I know I can move files between my machines. So I do appreciate it. Don't know if I'm going to ever switch, but I like having the option.
Good stuff.
All right, Matt, that's all the news for this week. As we've been doing for a really, really long time on the big show, it is time to review another Ubuntu release 14.10, and fall has arrived. But first, I want to tell you about our segment sponsor, System 76. Look at that nice fall picture they've got there
gorgeous.
with the Gazelle Professional. System 76 builds machines designed, born, created to run Ubuntu. And as soon as 14.10 ships, System 76 computers ship with it. They're all about the new releases, and they make sure their laptops always work with them. They're always testing the latest and greatest stuff. And, they've got that brand new, just updated Wild Dog system. Look at that boy. Woo-wee. And, we've got, I think it's one generation ago in studio for testing, and I think this right here, built in the US of A. All of these systems are gorgeous, Leopard Extreme, but the one that I keep going back to is Dat Bonobo.
Because you can take it, which is
Bonobo Extreme. Matt, I worry that I may be in the market for another, because I think it was in November they updated it. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I've been running Ubuntu on the Bonobo Extreme, and it is like peanut butter and chocolate, Matt. It is awesome.
Nice.
System76.com. Go get yourself a system designed to run Linux, so that way you stop fighting with your hardware. If you've been fiddling with stuff, you've never got it worked right, or every time you load a distribution, there's something you have to play with, stop it. I haven't done that for years, and it's because I buy System 76, and I've been buying System 76 6, 7, 8 years now. It's been forever. It feels like a whole lifetime I've been buying System 76. System76.com, and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. Go get yourself something nice.
Well, and something people probably don't realize about, like the Bonobos, for example, is they say, well, that's an awful big laptop. It's like, this is a desktop replacement machine with a dedicated graphics card.
It's a desktop murderer, Matt.
Yeah,
it's a murderer.
It's a murderer. It's got dedicated gaming card. It's got a subwoofer.
Yeah.
Really, seriously, I played with one of their new generation ones. This thing will do anything your desktop does. It's great.
So before we get into the review, I also just want to take a minute and sort of reflect on the fact that this is also when I think it's tomorrow, Ubuntu turns 10 years old.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I know, it's nuts. And so Art of Music got us a few screenshots. So here's look at this, Matt. There's version 4.10.
Oh my God, I remember
of Ubuntu, right? Let's jump ahead.
I think I actually played with that one.
604. This was really the release that was a big deal for me.
Yeah, I think that's when I popped off Debian.
Yep,
actually.
Right there was 604 was when I made the switch, and then here's 610. Which, if you go forward in time a little bit, though, you start to see some theme changes.
I think it was 710 when I actually really started doing more with it.
And here's 810, a big theme change there. That looks really great. That actually looks a lot like the desktop we're about to talk about today. Wow, take a look at that.
Yeah, that's when everybody kind of went off on the whole brown thing.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. Look at how close, though, that matches my system today. So if I bring up my home folder here, wait, you know what? My theme broke. Never mind. I'm a liar. But anyways, it's close.
It's very close.
It's close. Here, let me bring up the actual MATE. See, there you go. There's my MATE. Yeah.
The green pops, though. It's nice.
That's true. Okay, now a couple more just jumping forward here. Ubuntu 10.10s when the purple gets in real...
See, that was my... I really thought that was attractive. I thought that was a good choice in color and lighting. That was
and then, of course, we move forward to today, 14.04 and 14.10. So... we begin our journey today. We're going to take a look at all of the, what I call the most interesting flavors of Ubuntu 14.10, because I think where we have to start with this review is we just have to be honest.
Really?
A review of 14.10 can probably be summarized in one sentence. For those of you who love Ubuntu, 14.10 is more of what you love.
Exactly.
And not much else.
Well, there's some new goodies as far as like updates to kernel and things like that.
Of course. But I think we can make this case today. For those of you who want to play around a little bit, Ubuntu 14.10 offers a very appealing playground to check out some of the latest desktop technologies, and we're going to show you some of those today. We're going to show you how you can have a lot of fun with Ubuntu 14.10 and check out some of the newest stuff and sort of have a brand new desktop, even if there hasn't been a lot from the official flavor of Ubuntu. So I'll start. I spent the most time in Ubuntu MATE flavor, which isn't yet an official flavor, but it will be very soon. It's based on Ubuntu 14.10, and this is my customized version here. I've applied a dark theme. There's a few things that I'm still struggling with, like if I go into Appearance, and I go into Customize, and then I just toggle any of my different icons. My icons will turn white, the text, see? So it's just kind of, it's just one of those, it's just like a little bug in the theme or something like that. Yeah. But what you might notice, I've got wobbly windows.
That's important. I like my windows to be wobbly.
I got my drop-down terminal, right?
That's it.
What I have recreated here with MATE, one single toolbar across the top with my application menu, my running task, my desktop switcher.
That's what I like right there. I love that experience at the top. That, for me, is it.
This is, when Compiz is off, this desktop feels so incredibly snappy fast. It feels, on this Bonobo Extreme, impossibly fast. Like it is artificially guessing what I want it to do because what is happening seems like the computer should not be capable of rendering what I want that fast. Everything from the speed in which it boots to the speed in which windows pop open, menus snap up instantly. The terminal is immediately available. Everything happens, I feel like, before my finger is up from the button. Now, I have slowed it down by adding things like Compiz because, well, I like me some eye candy, and because I can. I actually don't have Compiz auto starting right now.
Oh, really?
But I went through and I celebrated by adding some dark themes to make it, real retro, the way I used to have it. I went and installed a whole bunch of good old GTK2 themes, which is crazy easy to do. I love how easy it is to install GTK2 themes. And the entire desktop has been extremely stable, very performant, incredibly performant, and
I think it just looks fantastic. I love that, and for me, it's all about drop-down terminal and a launcher. You give me those two things and a lightweight desktop, and I'm a happy man.
So here's what I am missing from MATE versus straight-up Unity. I actually like the dashboard launcher when I take out the online search stuff. So the fact that there's no search launcher feels a little old to me. Also because I move around so much that sometimes I don't remember if it's called MATE Terminal or GNOME Terminal.
Oh, right.
So I just want to type terminal and get the right terminal, but it's fine. And the quick launch up here sort of alleviates that problem.
Sure.
I don't really find it to be a big issue. I also feel like I kind of prefer a dock. I think I've decided, and
really?
I like the Unity dock.
I'm kind of.
The quick launch works.
I'm a quick launch guy. It's just because mechanically, it's just what I do. I can't even.
So Ubuntu 14.10 will be supported for 9 months. That's going to be the Ubuntu desktop server, Ubuntu Core, Kubuntu, Edge Ubuntu, all of those flavors. So whatever you base it on, you're going to get a 9-month window, which means it's not great for a long-term desktop deployment, but it's probably just right for an enthusiast who wants to have some fun, who wants to play around with their Linux. So here's what we're going to do. I've got the MATE version. I also played around a lot with the Unity version, but there's more to this release of Ubuntu than just those flavors. And so some of our producers helped carry the load on this review, and they've joined us, and they've done their own reviews. So we'll start with producer Eric, who kicked the tires on Plasma 5.1 under Ubuntu 14.10, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how you get this going, and we've got all of the notes in the show notes. This, I'm just going to spoiler alert right here, is a super awesome and brand new way to experience a really fresh desktop under Ubuntu 14.10.
Sweet.
Well-known flavors of Ubuntu, and in Kubuntu 14.10, you can get yourself a real respectable KDE Plasma 4 desktop. Nice, tried and true, stable KDE desktop.
Yeah, nothing really special about it at this point. It's just the KDE 4 that we have all grown to know and love. It's 4.14 at this point, which means it's basically not using Nepomuk for its
search.
It's using Balloon now for it.
Yeah.
For that,
and
a little bit snappier.
But we thought, okay, that's cool. But wouldn't it be more fun to use the 14.10 base and try out something brand new, something really fresh, something exciting? And KDE Plasma 5.1 just released yesterday as we were recording this, and Eric's got it loaded here on his machine.
I sure do. And one thing that's nice about this is you can actually download a Plasma 5.0 specific flavor from Kubuntu.
Okay.
From their website. So
and then is it much work after that to get to 5.1?
Just a little bit. You have to install the PPA, the Kubuntu-PPA /next. And that'll get you going.
So this is the Breeze theme?
This is the Breeze theme. In fact, this is a Breeze Dark theme that comes pre-installed.
Yeah.
Just got to switch to it. I'll show you some of the system settings, and you can kind of see some of the icons.
Eric and I are kind of lucky because we talked with one of the visual design group folks from the KDE project last night at a Kubuntu users
Andrew
meetup.
Lake.
Yep. Yeah. And he talked about how in 5.0 of the Plasma desktop, they got some of the new work in there. But in 5.1, there's a whole bunch of new stuff that the visual design group has been working on. In fact, Eric, why don't you show them the network manager down there in the corner? Because that was an area you said they worked on quite a bit UI-wise, is the network manager. And it does look really good.
It does.
And also Clipper. Do you have Clipper down there?
I do have Clipper
This
down
is
there
a whole new rewrite of the Clipper UI and application with some new functionality.
Yeah, as you can see, it kind of gives me a preview of the icon, in particular of like something I copied in Dolphin.
Yeah.
It'll also give you your text like before. Quite a bit of other things.
There's all kinds of new little niceties all over 5.1. 5.1 in some ways to me feels like a bigger update than 5.0.
Absolutely. In fact, you'll notice there's a lot more complete icons than last time we looked at this.
Right.
Still missing some.
Yeah, still some oxygen fallback.
Yeah, some oxygen fallback going on.
So show us your theme there, because this is I'm liking the way this works. So this is Breeze.
This is Breeze, and then the desktop theme is just the Breeze Dark that I've got here, and that's for this, like the title bar you've got down here.
Yeah.
Cursor theme, also the default Breeze, and what's nice about this, and we just discovered this, you roll over the cursors, it'll actually give you a preview.
And you can see that the UI has been cleaned up. The typography stands out a little more. It's just looking really dang good.
It does. Let's see, the application style, I've got it over to the Breeze style. You can see it comes with Oxygen. In fact, that's the default when you first start it. Is Oxygen. You just switch over to the Breeze.
Switch to Breeze, folks.
Yeah, switch to Breeze.
It's time.
Yeah, Oxygen has gotten stale, but it's nice.
Sure looks really sharp, though.
On. And then, the color, I just switched it over to the Breeze Dark.
Breeze Dark.
As opposed to the Breeze Light. You can kind of see a preview right there.
Yeah. Boy, that looks great. So bring up the About screen there, Eric, if you would. And it's something, too, I wanted to ask you is, and I know you've been using this on and off for a little while. How's stability been?
Until Plasma 5.1, it was a little shaky. Plasma Shell, in fact, every now and then still randomly crashes.
Let me try your touchscreen. Yeah. So if I grab okay. All right. Yeah. So I can actually move stuff around a little bit on the touchscreen. How does it work? Like, let me try launching an application here. I'll go down to your K menu. Okay, I brought that up. Let me see if I can bring up Chrome.
Yeah, go for it.
Nothing's happening.
Dice.
So it's not fully implemented yet.
Not
you
yet.
got some scrolling functionality. You got some click and drag functionality.
Let's go back to a scrolling.
Yeah. So if I two finger here, it'll actually scroll this. What? No, wait.
No, it's not.
Click in there first. Wait, maybe got to click in there first.
I did.
It's a little. No, it doesn't. Okay, it's hit and miss.
Hit and
the touchscreen but they're working on it.
They are working on it. That is definitely an active project.
Not a big deal for me, but if you're somebody like Eric who has a touchscreen laptop, it's a nice to have since your laptop has that built in.
It is really nice. I mean, as it stands right now, if I have a dialog button, I need to touch like the OK or the cancel. I can just bam.
So stability's a little hit and miss. So if you need a really solid desktop, you probably want to wait till maybe 5.3 even, maybe 5.4 even. But if you're okay with your shell dropping out sometimes, I know that sounds crazy, but if you are okay with that and you want to play with the new stuff, it sounds like this is a pretty good way to go.
Correct. And it's
grab the ISO.
Very nice. It's very nice, but at the same time, if you want to use this as your daily driver, expect it to crash every now and then.
I mean, so essentially you get all the benefits of having the Ubuntu ecosystem with Ubuntu 14.10 and one of the coolest desktops, one of the newest desktops out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if that appeals to you, it's definitely worth checking out. So there you go. That's a look at Kubuntu with the brand new Plasma Desktop 5.1. So we also have Erica filled out the notes with how to get 5.1 on Ubuntu 14.10.
Oh, fabulous.
And big thanks to Eric. He spent a lot of time working on KDE 5.0 and then 5.1 so that you could talk about in the review. It sounds like, it's a couple of minutes of review, but it was weeks of using it, finding the best way to install it, going to the Kubuntu users meetup and talking to them and all of that. It's sort of, I walked away thinking that while out of all of the flavors of Ubuntu, the Kubuntu one isn't for me. Where Plasma is going and where 5.1 is at right now, I think for a lot of people, if you've never checked it out before, go get it. Follow the links in the show notes. Set up the theme like Eric has, and it's a pretty amazing looking desktop.
It's very visual. I like the visual part.
Yeah, and so a big thank you to Eric for putting that together and the notes to get you guys going on Ubuntu 14.10. And there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. Also, just hit the Arch user just the official repositories yesterday. So now if you're an Arch user, you can get Plasma 5.1.
Oh, it's an official. It's not AUR.
No longer AUR. That's right. So there's also another spin of Ubuntu that everybody loves, one that maybe you think we weren't going to talk about based on some of our recent coverage, but you'd be wrong. That would be Ubuntu. Ubuntu 14.10 has a couple of surprises up its sleeve. Judging for some of our recent Ubuntu and XFCE coverage, I know there's still a lot of fans out there of the XFCE desktop, and it makes sense. It's something tried and true, something something that works, and it's low resources. So it's with that in mind, we took a look at Ubuntu 14.10. Eric's got it loaded up right here.
Sure do.
Got a pretty standard affair. I mean, if you know XFCE, you know what you're going to get here.
That's right. Nothing's really changed since 14.04. You might see a different wallpaper here.
Right. One of our recent improvements, the whisker menu remains in Ubuntu.
That's absolutely right.
Oh, I also notice
Something a little bit.
That highlight seems a little flamboyant to me. It's really popping at me. I mean, it makes it easy to see. I like it. It gives XFCE a new look, but it's a little... Well, Eric, it's a little pink.
It is pink. Yeah. It is absolutely pink.
Oh, my.
What?
Yeah,
what? It doesn't just end there, right?
No, it doesn't end there. Check out the
embrace
installer.
the pink, right? Yeah, so look at this. Now, Eric, could you describe... This is the Ubuntu installer I'm looking at. Now, to me, just as, a Ubuntu layman, it looks like there's an animal.
There is. It's a unicorn.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, I thought so. Now, Eric, could you explain to me what that unicorn is doing right now?
It's shooting a freaking rainbow out of its horn.
That's awesome. So they're all in on this release of Ubuntu. Now, you might not be. You might not be all in on the pink. We won't judge here. I think it works. I think it pops pretty nice. But
definitely.
Eric's got a pro tip to tell you how to turn that off, don't you, Eric?
Yeah, exactly. You open up your whisker menu, go into your settings, click on theme configuration, and see that little switch right there?
Right there, yeah.
We're going to turn it off.
Okay,
hit
toggle
apply,
it. Easy.
And get this nice pop-up. But look at that highlight.
Nice. My Windows 2000 Classic XFCE Blue is back.
That's right.
All is returned to the normal state of affairs in the world.
Absolutely.
So Ubuntu, tried and true release, looks good. You're going to do some Steam gaming. You want a low resources desktop.
That's right.
Obviously, again, this is a great way to go, and you get that advantage of the Ubuntu ecosystem as a whole.
Comes with the compositor enabled by default.
Cool.
And so you won't miss out on the window compositing or
get a little
shadows.
bit of fun.
That's right.
Nice. So Ubuntu, and if you're an XFCE user, you already know all about it. But we gave it a kick, and you know what? It didn't kick back. We were pretty impressed.
Very, very solid.
So there you go. That's Ubuntu 14.10. I think not too surprising. Didn't blow me away, but still, it seems like another great release of Ubuntu. And if you're a Ubuntu user, no judges. That's cool.
Looks nice and tight. The unicor's an interesting add-on.
Right, that was kind of surprised.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, Eric's like,
little rainbow.
Eric's like, have you seen what they did in Ubuntu? I'm like, I don't use Ubuntu, man. He's like, you gotta check this out. I was like, all right, we gotta talk about that. Now, I was on Google Plus last night, Matt, and I'm looking for your. Oh, here we go. I loved this rant from Matt Hartley right here. And so I'm curious now, let's talk a little bit about the MATE desktop.
Sure.
And let's open it up with a rant that was posted by Mr. Matt Hartley last night, 5 p.m. on Google+. He says, this is why I can never recommend one of the cooler desktops. Katie and Gnome both, nope, I'm dumb. I'm tired of repairing the extensions every time they break. To be clear, the last few times, no biggie, but this is becoming really tiresome, especially if you're foolish enough to rely on any of those extensions like I am. Just upgraded GNOME 3.14, had extensions break. MATE, here I come. You can keep all the shiny. I'll settle for my extensions applets not breaking with each update. #, done with GNOME. #, pretty but broken. Yeah. So, have you become a MATE user?
I've been a lightweight desktop guy for a while.
Yeah, you have.
And I did the GNOME thing for quite some time, much like I did the KDE thing for quite some time. But I'm finding that my patience for waiting for extensions to update and catch up to a desktop environment,
right,
ain't got time for that. So it's like I'm ready to move on and just get things done.
That is kind of a very frustrating thing. I agree with you. Because I had all of my extensions that I rely on break. However, and that's my GNOME bet is like I have to be comfortable using GNOME with no extensions.
And what sucks is that it's so attractive. I mean, it's a really attractive desktop, but at the same time, I can't justify it anymore. I can't make excuses. I'm done being a battered wife to my desktop environment.
So you came to the MATE side.
Yeah.
And so what did you think of Ubuntu 14.10 with MATE? You like it? What these guys
I felt
are doing?
like that it was, it had everything I loved from classic Ubuntu experiences. But at the same time, it's up to date.
Yeah.
I'm not having to wonder if something's going to, take the XFCE approach.
You know what's funny is
stop working.
I used to reminisce about back before I became a rolling release guy, I used to say my favorite Linux distribution would be one where certain things are updated all the time, like my web browsers and a lot of my userland apps that I want fresh versions of, like BitTorrent Sync, Dropbox, SyncThing, or Pulse. All of these updated frequently, right? But my userland, like the interface, would remain fairly consistent. That's exactly what the MATE flavor brings. It's sort of a consistent environment that's extremely fast, low resources, but yet it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing, like you're giving in a little bit. I acknowledge it does not feel as shiny or modern as GNOME 3 or Unity,
and
that bothers me sometimes.
it used to, but then I realized what I'm using. When I look at my desktop, I'm literally using a pull-down terminal, and I'm using a launcher, and then I'm executing an application. Yeah. I'm completely ignoring my wallpaper. I'm ignoring my icons.
Right.
I'm finding that I don't care, but I do rely on the things appearing at the top of the screen, as you see here. I do like to see what's going on with my processor. I do like to see what's happening with stuff. So,
and for me, there's a few things that I need in GNOME 3 that do break from time to time, and it is kind of annoying. So I can see there, and there obviously you can get GNOME on Ubuntu, but the MATE flavor I think really kind of surprised both Matt and I, and also producer Eric gave it a spin. Here's our thoughts on that.
Good stuff.
So you've probably noticed I'm pretty impressed by the MATE remix of Ubuntu, and Eric is too. He's been running it, and we both have kind of walked away sort of thinking, geez, they've managed to take something that feels super retro, put it on top of a modern operating system, add a few niceties, and we've walked away with something that we didn't expect. And I think one of the cool aspects of this is there's also been a pretty solid community link.
There has been, as a matter of fact. We got Martin Wimpress, otherwise known as Wimpy, from our chat room as well as our Mumble room.
Yeah, I've heard him on Linux Unplugged.
He's the guy who's been really putting this project together. Also, with the back-end administrative stuff and connections to Canonical, that's been Popey, Alan Pope. He's been really helping out Wimpy with all of this, and it's turned out brilliant.
Yeah, it really is it's a great release. The performance is awesome. The speed is awesome. The features are pretty much what you come to expect. Nothing too surprising, yet it's all comes together in a way that feels a lot more modern than you might think it would.
Absolutely, and it's kind of interesting when you even put the Compass effects in there, and because you can do that.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Stock with that.
No, but I went ahead, I installed it. There's still a few bugs I'm working out, but I like it. It's fun to get back to the old Compass stuff.
It is. It takes you back to the Ubuntu 10.04 days where you had all this.
Cubes and all those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Yeah. I gotta get fire paint going. I gotta get drops on the screen. Wobbly windows, of course, are mandatory. All of that, and then you can have fun with all of it. Yeah. So great work to Wimpy and Popey, and of course everybody else out there involved with it.
Yep.
And I think we have pretty high confidence it'll be an official flavor of Ubuntu in the near future. So you can grab it now. It's not yet, but it's based on 14.10. You can go get the disk and burn it or write it to a USB image, you install it, and you're going to have straight-up 14.10 that you've come to expect with the MATE desktop. I would bet, don't you think by the next Ubuntu release it'll be an official flavor?
Absolutely. In fact, it's already in the works. It's been kind of cool to be involved with this. I helped Wimpy out with the UEFI stuff.
Getting that to work on boot up. Yeah,
in order to make it boot up on that, and it works flawlessly now. I was very happy with running some of those pre-releases, giving Wimpy feedback, telling him, hey, it works, hey, it doesn't work, here's why, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And now here it is.
Yep.
And it's actually, it's all come together.
Yep, it's beautiful.
Pretty good work, guys. Pretty good work. Isn't that neat?
That is so cool.
When these guys started talking about doing this, I thought, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Like, how's this going to work? Who's going to, exactly.
What I want to give a special mention to, one of the things that we take into consideration when we do these reviews is not just the process of installing it and using the distribution, but also the process of acquiring the distribution. What is that like? How hard is that to find the ISO, to download it? Exactly. Could we expect an average end user to accomplish this task?
Right.
And I don't understand how the Ubuntu MATE flavor has been able to accomplish not only a great desktop, but a terrific website with a super easy to navigate download. So you click one link at the top to download. They have their torrents listed out right here, which are obviously web-seated or very well-seated. I downloaded my torrent super fast. Easy to get the RC or do an HTTP download as well. From beginning to end. A very well put together, very cohesive release. You feel like you're getting all the benefits of 14.10. You get to take advantage of that Ubuntu ecosystem, all of that package compatibility, all of those PPAs, all of that community documentation, all of that vendor support, Steam and Lightworks, you name it. But you get to use a desktop that is fun and exciting and put together by community members that you can actually chat with in our chat room.
Well, I feel like the ego has been withdrawn from which desktop environment is better, KDE, GNOME, and Unity. I feel like it's just about like, hey, let's just make something people want to use.
Right.
And it's like something we're passionate about, but we're not. If no one wants to use it, that's okay. If people do, that's great.
Did you see that Google commercial that was like, Android, don't all use the same. It's like be different but all together. Did you see it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't.
It was like a really good commercial, and it made me think of how Ubuntu is right now. So let me see. Android.
That does seem to be kind of the direction they're going in. I'm really impressed with it.
Altogether commercial. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but Google put out this kind of a good commercial that was like, be together, not the same. Hopefully they don't pull us down, but I want to play.
I would hope
just a little
not.
bit. I want to play this just to make my point, if I can find it.
Free advertising, they pull you down.
I guess you never
you
know,
would
though,
think,
right?
But yeah, the automatic crap.
When you either invited the new kid over to your
Do it
table.
a small screen.
Well, this is long, but anyways, their whole principle is you can have a bunch of different Android devices with different form factors,
right.
but underneath all of it, they're all tied together by Android. The same Play Store apps work across almost all Android devices, or the same F-Droid apps, or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? You can have different form factors, different iterations of Android, but it's all Android. This is becoming the case with Ubuntu. There's a lot of different iterations of Ubuntu. There's Ubuntu Touch. There's Ubuntu Kubuntu edition. There's Lubuntu, but they all run the same common applications and use the same common infrastructure. And it's kind of a cool advantage because it comes together really well. And I want to give honorable mention to Ubuntu GNOME, which we've had a recent review of, and you can get up to GNOME 3.14 using instructions we've provided recently.
Cool.
Lubuntu is obviously the LXDE-based variant of Ubuntu for very low resource usage. We have a PPA in the show notes if you would like to try out the latest LXQT on that. Version 0.8 just came out.
Cool.
Edubuntu, targeted for educational your purposes using the Unity desktop all set up. We talked about Xubuntu, but I wanted to get to Noah's review.
Okay.
We haven't talked a lot about the Unity edition of Ubuntu.
This is
Even
true.
though we tried it, we just haven't talked about it a lot. Well, that's what Noah focused on. And so Noah gives us his review of Ubuntu 14.10 with Unity.
I had a chance to kick the tires on Ubuntu 14.10 with plain old stock Unity. Now, right off the bat, I want to say that I think Canonical still presents one of the most compelling, polished desktop operating systems available. And that's particularly true when we talk about Linux distros. To test, I used this Dell Latitude E6320 with 8 GB of RAM, an Intel i7 Sandy Bridge processor, and a Samsung 850 Pro solid-state hard drive. With those specifications, I thought the operating system would fly. And while that wasn't my experience, I will admit that using a computer built in 2011 to test an operating system in 2014 carries the potential for some problems. After I dug in a little bit, I found that the default setting for the displaying of online search results was still set to on. Back in April, Canonical announced that the default setting would be off, but while I can understand why that change wasn't committed in 14.04 because it's an LTS, I thought we would have got around to it by 14.10. I was also disappointed that I installed the operating system just a couple of hours before I left on a business trip. I got onto the airplane with no Wi-Fi and found that I could not decrypt my 1 terabyte spinning disk because the crypt setup package isn't installed by default. That seemed particularly silly to me because I was prompted to encrypt my entire hard drive when I went through the installation. So the package was clearly available on the install media. I'm not sure why it doesn't install by default. It doesn't take up very much room. And in a post-Snowden world and in a world without TrueCrypt, it seems like that would be a good thing to have. Now, on the surface, not much has changed from 14.04. In fact, I will be sticking with 14.04 LTS because I like being on the LTS. I like the stability that comes with that. You get a newer version of the kernel, and there certainly are some changes, but you'd have to go over to the Blueprint site at Canonical to find what those changes are because none of them are readily apparent. I'm glad to see that Canonical still is committing improvements and changes to the desktop operating system despite being so heavily focused on mobile, but I would stick with Ubuntu 14.04 for the time being. It's a great operating system. Ubuntu still, like I said, shines as compared to other distros I've used. It may not be my personal choice, but it's definitely the first choice I recommend for all of my friends, all of my family, and all of my clients.
There you go, and I think Noah,
Excellent, Noah.
He underscores both our opinion. At 14.04, if you want tried and true, stable Linux, just stick with 14.04 if you're an Ubuntu user. There's PPAs that'll get you a lot of the things you might want, plus there's also backport enablements that'll give you some of the new hardware features of the kernel and things like that. There's not a compelling reason to upgrade to 14.10. And,
not really.
And I think that's why we kind of featured some of the more fun things you can do with it and the different flavors, because there's room to have fun.
Exactly, and I appreciate the fact that Noah's review uncovered important things you need to be aware of if you're thinking of upgrading. Hey, by the way, this may or may not work as expected. Maybe these are things that that the Ubuntu team wasn't aware of that maybe they are now.
And like he says, it's still the distro that he would recommend for his clients and friends and family. And 14.04 would be that for me. And 14.10 is the one I'm recommending for Ubuntu enthusiasts who want to go out and have fun. And you can also get a peek at some of those new KDE Touch applications. You can get those loaded up there. Ubuntu touch applications. You get those loaded up there and play with those. So there's some fun to be had.
Absolutely.
So all in all, 14.10, I'd say, from Linux Action Show is a distribution that you can have a ton of fun with if you put your mind to it, and doesn't take much work, and there's a lot of options. The Ubuntu ecosystem is obviously stronger than ever.
Oh, easily.
It's still a class act distribution, one of the best installers, one of the best out-of-box experiences. All in all, really solid. But I will make one final, just have to mandatory mention it. I haven't even opened the Software Center this entire time.
Yeah, I never, unless something's changed, there's no real value in it. We already know what it does.
Had to get the obligatory Software Center mention in there. I can't wait to talk about the time when they finally update that.
That'll be
exciting.
That'd be exciting. I really look forward to it. It's a great idea. Yeah. They just need to, see what they do with it.
Yeah. So. And thank you to all of our producers on camera and off camera that helped do all of the research and put all of this together. Worked with some of those distributions to iron out some of the final bugs that we came across during our testing and all of those things. You guys rock. And that, Matt, is the Linux Action Show's review of Ubuntu 14.10. And that brings us to the end of this week's show. But Matt, we got some business to follow up on, and we got a crazy amount of feedback. In fact, I'm a little excited. This is pretty neat. So folks from DuckDuckGo are fans of the Linux Action Show and TechSnap.
Oh, wow.
Turns out they like themselves some Linux, open source, and security. And we started chatting back and forth, because they want to get some community involvement in a project that they have. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, we can definitely talk about this. And as we started talking more, they're like, well, we really love what Jupiter Broadcasting does. Is there a way we could have like a sponsored email and sort of support the work?
Wow.
So we've never done it before, probably never do it again, but this here is a sponsored email from DuckDuckGo, and it's really cool. Super excited to tell you about something they're working on, because you guys know me. You know my current feelings about privacy and things like that, and how DuckDuckGo fits into that. You might not know that I've been taking the DuckDuckGo challenge for a couple of weeks, and I think that caught their attention. I've even put the little widget on my Android home screen,
awesome.
so like a little DuckDuckGo widget.
Right on.
So Zach wrote in to tell us about DuckDuckHack. It's DuckDuckGo's instant answer platform.
What?
And it's pretty cool.
Dude.
It's new. It's new to me. It's been around for a while, but it's new to me. And any developer can create an instant answer about a topic you love. So if you have a particular open source project or Linux project that you are really passionate about, you can provide an instant answer by submitting a pull request to the DuckDuckHack website, and then your answer will show up in the DuckDuckGo search results. So they figured, they know the Jupiter Broadcasting audience is packed with some knowledgeable people, so maybe they could help make DuckDuckGo's search more relevant. I think this is key to how DuckDuckGo plans to sort of take on the incumbent, is by some human intelligence, plugging that in there, and DuckDuckHack is the open source platform to do that. And I have a couple of examples. We were chatting, and check out, for example, they now have integration with Ubuntu's Ask Ubuntu website.
Oh, no kidding.
So if you wanted to search that, you can go over there and you can search right in there. Or here's another example. You want to check your Flash version. Right. You can type the command Flash space version into DuckDuckHack, and it'll come back and it'll give you this is just a great way to see what version you have installed or check your Flash installation. And that was through the DuckDuckHack website. Here's the example I was talking about with searching the Ubuntu Ask database, so you can get information about that. Or here's another one, searching the Arch package database. This is all right from within DuckDuckGo's search. So you type in the command Arch and then space what you want to search for. So like awesome, or I could put in Nmap, because you know me, I'm a big Arch user, so I want to hear a little, see, is this package in there? What's the description about it? Boom, Arch space Nmap. It pulls the Nmap description from the Arch package repository. And that's because an Arch user went over to DuckDuckHack.com, submitted their open source answer, and made the DuckDuckGo search results more relevant to Arch users.
That's super cool. I love that. And that human interaction, I think, is going to be the differentiator for sure. I love the fact that I can actually get something that's not just link bait-based crap. I can actually get good answers.
It's not coming because there's an ad platform behind it. Exactly. And what's great about it is you can help people find out more information about a topic you're passionate about, and DuckDuckGo will work with you to make sure the answer is formatted correctly. You can hook up your API, and if you have something like, for example, Forecast.io hooked up their API to the DuckDuckHack platform, and now they can provide more relevant weather search results right integrated into DuckDuckGo's search.
This is so well timed.
This is a chance for our audience to visit DuckDuckHack.com and bring more privacy and really open source to searching the web. So a big thank you to Zach and the team over at DuckDuckGo, who've been watching Linux Action Show and kind of wanted to point us in this direction. And they're really hoping to reach out to the Linux Action Show community and tap your knowledge to make search on the web more relevant using DuckDuckGo. give users an option that respects their privacy, and it's all backed by an open source push-poll system that's pretty neat. So check out duckduckhack.com and go submit a poll request for a topic that you know a lot about. I think it's really cool.
That is awesome. Totally support that.
duckduckhack.com, and congratulations to the DuckDuckGo guys. Just keep getting better and better over there. Woo! So our next email comes in as kind of a, hey guys, did you catch this? Because we didn't see you talk about this on the show. Jonathan writes in, not sure if you missed the news, but SyncThing is now called Pulse. And it's a bit more of a pain to set up than BitTorrent Sync. He's given us his take on it. But it's completely open source and doesn't involve a central server at all. We've talked a little bit about SyncThing in the past, showed it off even. He says, I started looking into alternatives to BitTorrent Sync because it just doesn't work well with Android. It frequently fails to sync files, and that's just unacceptable. I want to be able to use it to sync my entire phone to make sure it's easy to transfer files from it. And that just doesn't seem to work properly with BitTorrent Sync. At this point, though, he'd say SyncThing/Pulse is better for syncing your private data and files since it keeps them completely private and is open source, whereas BitTorrent Sync is a clear winner for sharing things publicly, like what I do with Unfiltered.
Sure.
Since SyncThing, or now Pulse, requires that both ends accept the connection, which wouldn't work well for general distribution. It's great for security, though. And he also linked us to some apps. If you're trying out SyncThing, or aka Pulse, check it out. He also thinks the UI is better. So if you missed the news, SyncThing is now called Pulse. Not Pulse Audio, just Pulse.
And some great arguments for why you might use it over the alternative. That was kind of missing for me, because before I was kind of like, yeah, but what do I care?
Thanks,
well, that's a good argument. Yeah.
Thanks, Jonathan. Clarification from last week's episode, Iconic Badger wrote in asking for clarifications on how I got Smoke Ping working in Docker under Arch, because when you start it up, it has a blank slate every single time. At the time of recording, I hadn't worked that out. Now I decided to make a clone of it and modify it myself, but he also linked he contacted the developer of that Smoke Ping Docker image and actually had the developer update the description page on how to configure it to check more targets. So a big thank you to Iconic Badger for reaching out. If you watched our coverage of setting up a Arch home server on an Intel NUC and using Smoke Ping inside a Docker container, if you know what any of that means and you want to know more, check out the link in the feedback segment. It was good stuff. Yeesh. Last but not least, another great email. We still have a whole bunch for Linux Unplugged. Joe writes in. He wants us to talk about an alternative to the now Microsoft-owned Minecraft, which I don't think we've mentioned much on the show. He says, now that Minecraft has gone over to the dark side of the computing world, maybe you could spotlight Minetest. It's a game inspired by Minecraft that is written in C++ with Lua mods. It's easy to set up, and you can pick and choose what mods you want to add. Best of all, it runs on Linux, Windows, and Mac. You can find it at minetest.net.
That's a cool alternative.
I've heard mixed things.
Yeah.
I like that it's not written in Java and that it uses Lua for mods. That means it's probably a little more accessible for a lot of folks. And I don't know. I don't know if anybody in the chat room has experience with Minetest. I've heard mixed stuff.
Oh, yeah. Maybe not so much. Not quite there yet.
Not quite there. But you know what I think? I think now that Microsoft owns Minecraft, it's going to get there a lot faster.
I think you might be right.
I think that's going to turn around fast. All right, Matt, just the last couple of bits of business before we run, just as a brief reminder to those of you who maybe joined us in progress. The Linux Action Show will not be live on Sunday next week. We will be live on Monday. I have now said it twice in the show at 2 different spots. So if you get that wrong, that's your bad, son.
And it's probably in the show notes.
And it's in the show notes in 2 different locations, and it will be updated at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Just a real brief recap. Follow my wife on Twitter for play-by-play updates of meetups and things like that at Ohio Linux Fest. She's twitter.com/ANGERZANGERZ Angers, or follow me, twitter.com/ChrisLAS for updates. If you want just the visual of pictures of what we're doing and things like that, Instagram.com/JupiterBroadcasting. But also, probably worth pointing out, we have the live chat room, and people in there will probably at least have an idea of what's going on, and our Twitter feeds will be pumped into there. So if you have an IRC client, go to irc.geekshed.net, and it's #Jupiter Broadcasting for our 24/7 chat room, which is also embedded over at jblive.tv. irc.geekshed.net, #Jupiter Broadcasting. During the weekend, if you're in Ohio or just want to know what's going on in Ohio, that's going to be the best way, because here's the big disclaimer. Right now, from our understanding, there is a no live streaming policy from the Ohio Linux Fest. It's not the Fest choice. It's the facilities in which we will be working out of and the contract they have with their telco. So I do not believe we will have a live stream of Ohio Linux Fest, but we will obviously have lots of recaps of the best moments in LAS and Unplugged for the week following. So Twitter, IRC, Instagram, those are going to be the best ways to stay up to date on the happenings with Ohio Linux Fest. And I think it's like hashtag something or other. There's like already a hashtag.
You'll see
set
it.
up.
Yeah.
And then we also have a Google Plus event. One final bit of business before we run today, Matt. We often have actual electronic mails, emails, but today we have actual mail in this grocery bag. So we're gonna do a physical mail sack for you, Matt.
Oh wow!
Now don't be fooled by the box. The box does not give away the contents.
Well, I thought I was getting a Safeway, so I was pretty excited.
This is from viewer Skooky Sprite. He is in the IRC chat room right now. You see, there he is. And go ahead. I don't know. I have no idea what's in here. I was told not to open this.
It's not ticking.
So there you go. It's not. So there's a box. While you open that, I'll show. He also sent in some books. Our final invention, the artificial intelligence, and the end of the human era. So that should be some light reading for you, Matt. That'll be nice.
Wow.
So you go ahead, open it. I want to see what it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. Open it up, and I'll show another book while you open that up. This here. The Shadow Factory, the ultra secret NSA from 9/11 to the eavesdropping on America. If you think Unfiltered is hardcore, this book is going to blow your frickin' mind.
I already like the whole.
All right, so what's in there, Matt? What do we got in there? What is it, Matt? What is it, Matt? What is it, Matt? What is it?
Here we go.
Oh, it is.
Oh my goodness!
What is that? It's a huge
books, serious books. Here we go.
Now, why Python? Why Python? Are you learning Python all of a sudden?
I am now.
I guess so.
That's cool.
Is that Skooky Sprite's subtle message to you? Also, apparently, he wants you to know about the end of humanity, the NSA spying on us, and how to write Python.
And how to write Python. This sounds like this is a survival kit. Thank you so much.
It might all be explained right there. He did include a note,
he's got a note there.
So I really a big thank you to viewer Seth, who also sent some goodies to myself, to Angela, and even to our kids. Mr. Skooky Sprite, you sir are awesome. He wants you to. Skooky Sprite says, Matt, open the book.
Open the book.
Oh, open it up, he says.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There's something in there, Matt. There's something in the book. Is it taped? Are the pages taped?
A little bit.
What is going on there, Matt? What is? It's hold on.
Oh my
gosh. Oh my gosh. Matt, open that up and show it to the video.
Okay.
Amazing. The Python book has been cut into, and he's actually put something inside it, and there's like an S ton of stickers and stuff in there. That's hilarious.
Flash drive. That is cool.
I wonder what's on there.
Yeah, right?
So he sends it. He sends it in a Seagate box. So it begins with misdirection right there. And then he puts it inside a Python book, which is cut inside of, and then stashed stickers.
And it's got explanation as to what's on here with the other notes.
All right. Okay. Hats off to you, sir.
That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's got a secret compartment.
Has documents.
So hey, Matt.
Yes.
I know you got some. You got a new article posted about
a new article
about a divisive topic.
About how the kumbaya of Linux.
The divisive Linux community.
Yes, a little bit, just kind of an examination of that it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but it's not always necessarily a good thing, and that it's kind of been at its core since the very beginning.
And I got a link to that article over on Datamation. Also, be sure to check out Matt and I and the whole Mumble Lup. It's a Luplug. That's what it is. Luplug. On Tuesdays, we do Linux Unplugged, and it's always a great conversation. And we have an open Mumble room, so if there's any topic going on in the open source world you want to talk about, we have an open floor, and we'd love to hear it. Yeah. All right. Last but not least, send us your feedback. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact, choose Linux Action Show from the dropdown, or even better, hit up our subreddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com, feedback or topic ideas, app picks. If you have a desktop app pick for Linux that you feel like, why hasn't that ever gotten attention, submit it to that subreddit. We'd love to have it there. And we'll also use that for things like your insights and comments and the whatnots. Hope to see everybody, all of you at Ohio Linux Fest next weekend. But don't forget, we'll see you right back here on Monday. And thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. That video that I was trying to figure out on the fly during the review. Here's the video that kind of makes more sense. And I was saying when I saw this video, I didn't so much think of Android. I thought more of the Ubuntu ecosystem.
Remember back in school when you either invited the new kid over to your table or you didn't? If you did, that was a cool move. That was an and move. And moves take guts, but they can mean everything. Their and move is to put wings on a bicycle. Now we fly. When enough people have an and view, the world changes. Forever. If you think about it, you're only here because of an and moment. Opening yourself up isn't easy. But when you do, it's hard to forget. Because it leads to something new. Something better. That's why we need this. And this. And them. And you. Yeah, you. Watching this right now. Because everyone doing the same thing won't move us forward. But everyone doing their own thing. Together. Can.
that tagline was pretty much all I thought of. Is that you have to say there? I thought that was kind of the whole commercial is not really applicable except to the very end here.
Everyone doing the same thing won't move us forward, but everyone doing their own thing together can.
And that should say Ubuntu right there, not Android.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Although I will say there are times using Android is very similar to putting a diaper on your head.
Mm-hmm.
Arch is the Bajorans. Yeah, and that's kind of falls under the marquee bucket. But yeah, definitely.
No, Arch is not Bajorans. No.
I would say more Maquis specific because that's humans, that's Bajoran, that's a number of races, but it's more
what about, direct. Hold on.
Okay.
I think I could make the case that Bajorans. Let me think about this.
Because I think you're going straight to the spiritual side.
I don't want to go out on a limb here, but I think.
You nailed it with this.
I think Fedora is the Bajorans, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I got a couple reasons. Number one, because they're like rebellious, right? And they have like this strong spirit and can-do attitude. But at the same time, they're really kind of sucking off the teat of the Federation, right?
They really are, and they're really into the ear jewelry.
And at the same time, you take Red Hat away from Fedora, like you take away all the Red Hat people out of Fedora, not doing so good anymore, right?
That's actually a pretty good argument.
Okay, now, Yeah. But now the spiritual aspect, right? What are the Bajorans are very faith-oriented. They believe in the prophets. They believe in the word of the prophets, the word from these orbs. Well, Fedora, they're very freedom-respecting and loving distribution.
Stallman's like floating there.
Who are, right? They don't, they're really restrictive about what they ship in their distribution because of their beliefs and their philosophies. I'm telling you, better or for worse, Fedora is the Bajorans.
So where's Q fall into? That's a great point. Because that's like...
So Klingons are, you think Klingons...
I think just, well...
See, I think labeling Klingons as Linux in general was too broad. I think we can get more specific.
Okay.
Right? Because I think you could say, like, you could narrow it down. You could say Arch. It's one specific race.
Okay, yeah.
So Arch, what do you think? Arch is...
I still say the Maquis, just based on the entire picture.
I could see that, yeah.
I
can see Arch being the Maquis. All right, so let's take OpenSUSE.
Okay.
Maybe the end. How about this? OpenSUSE is totally the Andorians, right? It looks kind of cool.
Oh, right.
It has some neat toys, but you never do anything with it, and they're never written into the storyline properly.
Just a fuzz of arrogance, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think so. I think
skin,
SUSE. Yeah, SUSE is the Andorians.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's go back here. Let's see. Who else could we?
This could be a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Chat room, you got any? OpenSUSE is Ryza.
Klingons are Debian.
Q is RMS. Klingons are Debian.
That's not terrible, actually.
They do have a lot of, and Klingons do have a lot of political council infighting.
And they will literally stand their ground no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To hell with the computer, disembowel your enemies with a PC. So
Kaylee is the Dominion. Oh,
I can. Okay.
Okay, I can respect that.
The Dominion. Wow.
Because they're totally.
Hold on. How have we not labeled who Ubuntu is?
Oh wow.
Who is Ubuntu? Out of all of the races in Star Trek, I mean Ubuntu. I mean you could say humanity, right? Because that fits in with the whole Ubuntu.
Sure. Okay.
And humans, they strive for greatness, but they often fall short of it.
And they do tend to fit into different areas of the universe and kind of create problems or solve problems depending on how you look at it.
Right.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
The Borg?
No, that's more Windows.
Ubuntu used to be the Federation, the Borg. Wow, the chat room is split on this. Counselor Troy is Ubuntu.
Oh my. Boy, okay.
System D is the Borg. Okay, now we can't get down to component level arguments here, guys. All right, so what's
the
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ferengi battle, anyway. Yeah.
I was supposed to be set up for a show. What the heck?